With dust yet to settle on the abduction and the release of hundreds of secondary school pupils in Kankara, Katsina State, another attempt was made on Saturday night to kidnap another set of 80 students of an Islamic school in Katsina, the state capital. What is fueling the renewed offensive against the primary educational institutions in Katsina, the home state of President Muhammadu Buhari? And what does this hold in prospect for the security of similar institutions spread across the northern parts of Nigeria? Well, joining us now to look at this in detail is Dr. Umar Bindir, a former secretary to the government of Adamawa State in northeast Nigeria. We will also take him up on the impact of banditry and terrorism on the citizens, their livelihoods, as well as the education of children in northern Nigeria, the region with highest number of out-of-school children in the country. Welcome to the program, Doctor.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Dr. Bindir, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Very quickly, we would like to ask you, what's your assessment of the government's handling of the abduction and the rescue, if you like, the release of the Kankara boys, and also the general atmosphere of insecurity in the country? And in that regard, I'm talking about both the state government and the federal government.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Bati, for inviting me. And this is a very important question. I think initially, I'll have to start by literally commending the authorities and any organization or people who are involved in the effort to literally bring back the boys to their parents. But running through to your second part of the question of the generic assessment of the whole thing, I think it is a very clear indication of a system failure. I mean, you remember, I can't remember what year now, but you remember there was a time when Boko Haram, young boys handling very complicated armory, AK-47s and so on, got into a secondary school and literally shot all the children in a dormitory. And it just fizzled away like that. And then came the Chibok girls, and then the other incidences in terms of the Dapchi girls, and now we're talking about Kankara, and then it kept on going and going and going like that. And our observation and the procedures followed, to me, is literally falling to what Einstein said. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you are not going to get a different outcome. You literally become either stupid or an idiot. I think our system has to understand that we have to inject vigor of modernity, of technology, of philosophy, and so on and so forth, to ensure that we dig out the roots and causes of these sort of things and deal with it decisively. You see, I am a scientist. I worked in the university, and I worked in research institutions. This country has over 200 universities. Now, what is the output from these tertiary institutions to do with socioeconomic development? How do we check things? How do we monitor things? How do we... Look, the scientific community in this country even has space adventure. We have got a space research and development institutions. We have a communication satellite company. We have engineering institutions. We have socioeconomic development institutions. Research institutions, in addition to these universities, numbering between 300 to 400. And all that is just not working for Nigeria. We have not, these girls and boys, we've not seen teachers who are stolen with them. Where are the house masters? Where are the securities? Just the boys have gone, and then they were discovered. So all this has to be philosophically, you have to inject our know-how into it and ensure that we are prepared for this country. Look at our traditional institutions. It's so vast. All of us wearing this type of things. Some are wearing beads and so on and so forth, calling themselves with titles and everything. Very vast. Down to the bottom of, in the north, we call them the Mayanguas. That is the lowest ward heads. A ward head knows every single person in their ward by name. How come that structure is not responding to the socioeconomic requirements, and so on and so forth? So in my opinion, I think it's the system failure in our country. You cannot have from all the even the politically elected people, 109 senators, everybody with a constituency, 360 members of House of Reps, each with its own constituency. And then nothing is happening at the bottom that people can move in and cut away 344 boys. How many buses do you carry such numbers? How many motorbikes? They will just come. Do they rain from the sky? Come in through various villages up to a school, carry everybody through the villages into the bush again, and then we just start running up and down, and now we're moving to the playing the ostrich. We're just closing schools. I think our system, our national system of politics, of social and economic, must respond to these needs very, very firmly and convincingly in line with the modernized way of thinking things. Information, communication, technology application, and so on and so forth has to be deployed to be able to look at these things generically.
Indeed, you've raised many issues, Doctor, but this should ordinarily be deeply embarrassing that this is happening in the president's state. But more importantly is the scale of these abductions, like you have highlighted. 344 boys from one federal government school in one fell swoop. And then came another 80, barely 24 hours. Abduction for ransom in Katsina State is not new. But does this speak to the level of poverty, the economy of the region, or do they just collect this ransom to fund terrorism? Or something in between? What are your thoughts?
I think you are right. I think the poverty level is very, very high. But the poverty is a long equation. Poverty, there's basic needs poverty. There is poverty to do with skills and capabilities to be able to do things. And there is poverty of immaturity of institutions. This is at the various levels. I know, not just in the north, I have visited literally all the 774 local government areas through my public service career in this country. There was a time I was in Bayelsa State. I cried because this whole local government does not have any piece of land. Everybody was floating on top of water that you cannot drink. My mind went down to how on earth do you survive? And I was in a village in Yobe State where the whole local government is just sandy. No trees, no water, nothing. And I cried again. So, I mean, look, poverty is very high, but in every system that you want to inoculate this dangerous issue, you have to ensure that you deploy your know-how to filter the SWOT system. You must know what are you strong in. Nigeria is very strong when it comes to a population that you can be able to ride on to raise an economy. Nigeria is very strong when you come to the intellectual community, like I said before. There is no state in this country that does not have at least 2 universities. And there is no university in Nigeria that you don't have at least 5 to 10 professors, full-time professors, and so many students. Nigeria is vast. It has vast opportunities in agriculture, from the forest-based agriculture up to the savanna and Sahel-based crops and animals. I mean, how come that a country, particularly regionally in the north, you have cows, and cows are known for meat and milk and skin and hide and other industrial products, but all we jump onto is to make that industry become totally dangerous. It results into, herdsmen and farmers, 2 industries that could actually raise the profile, socioeconomic profile of the country, and we have left it at the disaster level. It means there is no plan. There is no strategy. There is no very firm design, implement, monitor, evaluate, impact assess, and change. We're just literally, in my opinion, sitting down regurgitating the same way. We accept the cut and paste methodologies of policy, and that is not going to. So poverty is key, as you said. Unless we have a very firm poverty reduction or poverty eradication strategy, children will continue to become out of school. Mothers will continue to deliver their children out of hospitals. We will continue to see that a lot of people cannot drink clean water, therefore having waterborne diseases. We'll continue to see so many children born and the parents cannot handle them. And gradually, we are now getting into a really drugged youth population in Nigeria that is now creating a very firm and fertile pool for people to be recruited to do these terrible things. All this kidnapping, all this killing, all this insurgency, if you check, are literally done by the local people. They speak the same language, they know the culture, they know the region, they know the area, and they even know everybody. They scare everybody, and they turn back and chew themselves. So I think the country must take this poverty eradication, poverty reduction, and literally continue to measure that it is coming down. If it is going up, we have to change strategy. If it is going down, we have to sustain that strategy. But I think that is the secret.
Yes, that's the secret. We know we have a problem on our hands. We know out-of-school children, the numbers are increasing by the day. We know there's probably no economic viability in that part of the country. But apart from that, there's also the challenge of leadership. This morning we're reading in the papers how the army and the police we're fighting so hard to claim glory for who rescued the 80 students in Katsina recently. And we all know how there's been a lot of double speak here and there. Leadership is the thread that ties the social existence and social fabric of society together. How can we get it right? You talk about poverty in the north, but you forget that we have states in the north that their governors only visit the states maybe 2-3 times in a month.
Yeah, I like your question. Poverty is not just in the north, it's just terrible in the north. And the impact is very intense because it's pushing you to killings and taking people and so on. So it's very visibly active. But you see this issue of leadership, that is what I kept saying, that if you continue to do exactly the same thing over and over and over again, you will not change. It will just become terribly worse. Look at our political cycle. I had an opportunity as a secretary to the government, technocrat, purely technocrat. I have absolutely no political design or future in that. I just went to deploy my technicality and help to grow. But my observation, very interestingly, is that you have a chain. You have to belong to a party, and the parties are fighting. You have to now do congresses to come up with escorts of your party. The intense fight at even just getting the executive committees of the parties at the lowest level up to the state level, you cannot believe. In fact, I used to ask myself, what are these people looking for? What are the benefits to become this? And then until you come to the elections, we don't do elections properly. We lie to ourselves. We rig and we say we are not rigging. And in fact, we force people down, people that want to be elected down the throat of the electorate. And we do so many bad things and expect good leadership to come out of that. That's not going to happen. We must be able to, in my opinion, deploy technology. Technology is what makes you to mimic the attribute of God, to be omnipresent. You will be present in so many places without being there if you use technology. And Nigeria has that opportunity to utilize its internal institutions, its internal capacity, and its own diaspora energy to be able to change this. And in my opinion, everybody, the engineers, the pressmen, everybody must be involved in this, and you don't just shift to one side and allow, like Erufai said, bad people to continuously be emerging as leaders and expect goodness to happen. leadership, if leadership is good, you don't need to praise it. You don't need to ask for it. You will just see goodness happening. You will see more children going to school. You will see the education system graduating young people who are creating wealth, who are creating jobs, and I've not seen anywhere where people have got jobs, they go to offices, they get a pay, they come back in the evening, eat their food, and then carry their machetes to go and fight and kill people. I've not seen that system. So if we want it to change, we can change it. But if we want to continue to wait until it happens, and then we zoom onto either the president or some political leaders and blame ourselves, we're just branding our country as an impossible country.
Dr. Bindir, one of the major issues we're dealing with is the safety of our schools, particularly in the Northeast and the Northwest. And we've seen a pattern from 2014, boarding schools being attacked. What can we do to address the situation, to make our schools safe? Nigeria having signed onto the Safe School Initiative in 2014 and having ratified it in 2018 under UNESCO protocols. How can we make our schools safe so that these young persons can go to school and feel safe? And tragically, some of the boys who have been rescued, the Kankara boys, are even now saying, look, they are so pained, so afraid that they don't even want to go back to school. That is not a good prospect for a country where over 10 million children are out of school.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Abati. I think there are things that you can do directly. I mean, in most of my recommendations, I put them on 4 platforms. There are things that you can do immediately. There are things that you can do over a short-term platform, 2 years or 1 year or whatever. There are things that you can do medium-term and then long-term. Immediately, certainly we have seen the government and interested parties have run after the children, whether they have paid money or not, at least they have managed to bring the children back. And there are states and ecosystems where even they have not had any children stolen, they are quickly just closing their schools and chasing everybody to go home, creating a different problem. Now, to me, I have not seen these bandits moving and stealing children from a private school. Why? I have not seen these bandits moving into the city or the town center, mopping up children and stealing them. Why? So when you mop these things up, it means you have to take the boarding schools very, very seriously. And I come back to the deployment of technology. You have to employ more people. You have to train more people, meaning teachers, security, and so on and so forth. You have to put an alarm and early warning system around the school to make sure that digitally somebody can press a button and all the police stations, all the military formations, the traditional palaces will actually get information that something is happening at a particular place. We must be able to set up a checking system where all the pharmacies in that area are checked. Are they buying medicines so quickly? Who are buying these medicines quickly? And you can only do this by databasing and grazing the profile of the people. We must check what happens to the markets. There are market days for villages in these areas. Do people pour in, buying food items, buying machetes, buying sickles, buying knives? You have to track all these things. And we must make the traditional system very, very responsive. In the north, you have the emir at the top, you have the district head below him, you have the village heads below them, and then you have the Mayanguas, the waters at the bottom. It's a pyramid. Every Mayangua must report on the basis of very firm training every single day. Certain indices of development. Was there an arson? Did anybody kill anybody? Is there a new person in that community? Who is selling the drugs? And so on and so forth. We must bring templates and be able to constantly train these people to give daily report. Mayanguas have to give reports to the village heads. The village heads must assess to say, hey, why is it that in your Angua there is always a fight throughout the week? The Mayangua might be able to say, well, it's the district head's son or it's the DPO's son. Nobody can talk to him. He's constantly on drugs. These things are the modern way of doing things. But if we fold our arms, thinking that something is going to fall from the sky as a calabash to cover our schools so that we're safe, that is not going to happen. So we must be very proactive. We must study and deploy well-farmed up methodologies daily, monthly. yearly, so that we can be able to overcome this. Closing schools is not the way to go, in my opinion. Yes, instantly it makes people feel like you are safe, but you cannot have a local government chairman, a ward councillor, a member House of Reps, a senator, all looking at this area, and everybody is just sitting in their offices pretending and telling you that they are leaders. You cannot have the traditional umbrella all leading you, and then everybody is sitting down there saying that, oh, they are your leaders. And then when it happens, you just point a finger to the president. No, the president, yes, on the pyramid is the apex, but the bottom has to work, and the bottom has to work technically. We all have to put our know-how onto this to be able to say that, yes, we can be able to protect our country. This thing that we are branding it is a northern problem. Yes, it's happening in the north. If you zoom yourself to the middle, you will see that there are problems too. If you zoom yourself to any part of the country, you will see the various challenges. This is just terrible because it is children, it is about killing people, it is stealing people into the bush, and therefore is up to the surface. Nigeria must develop what I call as the one Nigeria way of looking things. Not by dancing and flagging the Nigerian flag. No, we have to say, irrespective of where you are, the northeast and the northwest problem is your problem as a Nigerian. So branding it Northwestern Challenge or Northeastern Challenge is not going to change. Go to England. They just call you a Nigerian. Who cares about Northeast and North? Anyway, so I talk a lot.
Well, it is appalling that we haven't learned from the past school abductions, and solutions are not in short supply. Governor Masari of Katsina State says they had built fences around the schools for protection, but that obviously did not work. And now he has mentioned that security operatives will now be deployed to schools. New security formations will be formed around school communities. But a security expert also said last week that perhaps we should be considering super schools, like we have super camps for our military. I wonder what your thoughts are on those suggestions.
Well, these are good things, but I asked Governor Masari, does he know every single primary school by name and their location? Does he know every single teacher that teaches in every primary school in Katsina State? Does he know the names of every single headmaster and their qualifications and their experience in Katsina State? Has he set up a system whereby the headmaster of every school is speaking to the DPO of that locality every single day? Does he have a structure whereby the traditional leaders are constantly talking to the schoolmasters every single day? This is the dynamic way of looking at things. You know, you must map things up and trigger for that system to function, and then information moves, and then before you know things that are showing their heads to cause challenges before they happen, and then you take actions. I would love it to see these governors that are having direct challenges to have summits of all the academic institutions in that area, all the lecturers, all the teachers. Hey, come and sit down with the security outfits, the road safety, the civil defense, the military, the police, everybody. Sit here. We must forge a solution now, today, and then you sit for 5 hours, let him chair it, and you will see what is going to happen. But the blame game of the leader or just the president or just the governor, and then we are running in circles, that is not the modern way of solving this type of very terrible problems.
Right, we'd like to say a very big thank you for your time, sir.